Bam. Can y'all believe the Winter Olympics are right around the corner?
It's very cold, so yes, I can.
That's fair.
We're living in the Winter
That's
Olympics.
fair. Are there any Winter Olympic sports that you think are just ridiculous and should get the boot?
No, because I like the weird ones. Like biathlon seems so silly, but I enjoy watching someone ski and then have to shoot a gun. And I like watching curling. Like the weirder the better for me. So the ones that maybe are on the edge, those are the ones I want.
To this day, still don't know how curling is scored. I just like people sweeping and doing the
It's an aesthetically pleasing sport.
It's also incredibly stressful.
Yeah. At the same time, ASMR and also high anxiety.
You always look back to when you were kids. You want to win two things. You want to win the Stanley Cup and the gold medal, and I think every NHL player should have that opportunity and a chance to be able to win that every 4 years.
Well, today's show, we're going to be talking all about being in the spotlight, the ups and the downs. And first, we're going to talk about an NFL team that's in the hot seat, the Buffalo Bills. After watching owner Terry Pegula's press conference this week and the shade that was thrown around, it was interesting. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are, including trashing one of his own players.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're left to wonder after something like that, where is the line for keeping things in-house? Then we'll check in on baseball, who got into the Hall of Fame, who didn't even come close, and why we should celebrate them all. And for our main story, we have an exclusive interview with hockey star Brady Tkachuk. Pierre LeBrun, senior NHL columnist for The Athletic, sat down with Brady on the eve of the Winter Olympics, where he and the rest of Team USA will try and win gold for the first time since the Miracle on Ice 46 years ago. Let's go ahead and dive in. That's a lot there. Robert, Jason, I don't know if you know this, but it's championship weekend in the NFL, okay? Yeah. And over in the AFC, there is no Patrick Mahomes. There's no Lamar Jackson. And after the Bills lost to the Broncos last week, there's no Josh Allen. How do you guys feel about that?
It's a new world.
Okay.
It is a new world.
Buffalo owner Terry Pegula responded swiftly to the Bills' latest letdown by firing coach Sean McDermott. Okay, 9 years of building up this team, changing the culture, out after that loss. But that was just where the fireworks began. Robert, what is happening in Buffalo?
You could understand firing Sean McDermott after 9 years if you continue to fall short. If you keep hitting the same wall over and over and over again. That's not the shocking part of this. To me, the shocking part was how they handled the aftermath of it. In the press conference explaining the firing of Sean McDermott, there were obviously legitimate questions from reporters to general manager Brandon Beane about the state of the roster. And when they were asking him about one player specifically, Keon Coleman, highly drafted player, was a healthy scratch at points this year. When Beane started answering the question about Keon Coleman, Terry Pegula cuts him off and says, you know what? The coaching staff was actually the group that pushed to draft Keon. This was not something that Brandon made a mistake with.
Yeah, I mean,
can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. He's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
To do that in public to a player that's still on the roster while undermining, and the way that makes your GM look, it's just one of those moments. Just stop helping, Terry.
Right.
Just sit there and be quiet for a little bit.
Beane tried to come back, right?
He tried to walk it back because that's what he should do.
Right.
When you are the head of personnel for an NFL team, every pick stops with you, no matter what happened behind closed doors. And so it just really spoke to a level of dysfunction might be strong, but more unrest in that building than you might ascribe to a team that has made the playoffs 9 seasons in a row.
To me, the Josh Allen press conference stuck out so much because everybody has always, in my opinion, tried to cover up when Josh Allen didn't play well in big games, and when he does play well, he's the greatest thing you've ever seen in quarterback. The man was sobbing at the podium.
It's extremely difficult. I feel like I let my teammates down tonight.
he knew he had let down not only 52 other guys in that locker room, but he knew it was going to be Sean McDermott's last go at it, because they read the papers, they understand the talk around the team. So it was one of those things where you mentioned dysfunction. To me, all that dysfunction comes from a lot of finger pointing, not enough thumb pointing. And when your owner does it top down, Brandon Beane not only is now the general manager, he's the president.
Yeah, he gets a promotion after
He's the
this.
president of the Buffalo Bills now. So if you're, buyer beware, if you're one of those head coaches who are looking at that situation thinking, oh, this is a great fit, you've got a great MVP caliber quarterback. To me, there's more lurking behind the scenes there, and they let their family business spill out to the public.
It feels like you're coming into someone's house and you're seeing them fight. You're seeing the dirty laundry a little bit. Like, how much should things be kept in-house when you're having a little bit of, whether it's dysfunction, unrest, lack of accountability?
Well, this is the thing. This is why journalism is important. And this is why when people talk about question asking, it's always about getting people on the record. And when you get people on the record, you can refer back to what they said previously. Sometimes they just give it to you. So now going forward, this is going to be something that I think the New York sports media, the Buffalo media, whoever's covering that team, now when Brandon Beane hires a GM or when the next coach gets hired, I have to now ask, hey, did you hear what was said at this press conference, and how does that change how you go about your business? Are you worried about, the finger being pointed at you? So, whether you should let everything out, whether it's family business, in the end, this is why journalists in this country, they're important to get people on the record because of things like this. If you want to keep it behind closed doors, fine. But when you let people know publicly, now it's time for other questions to be asked.
I agree with that.
I will say, all of that is true. And I think that there is a stink on this job over the last week that there wouldn't have been otherwise if there had been a better public presentation by the people in charge. At the same time, people are going to fall all over themselves to get this job because these just don't happen very often. The only reason this isn't the best job in the cycle is because the Ravens job is the best job to come open in the 15 years I've been paying attention to this. Think about the conviction and the portrayal of, and the projection of confidence that happened in the Ravens press conference with their owner compared to what the Bills looked like. The Ravens are just a more stable, put together organization. Sure. That job is in its own echelon. But the Bills' job is not that far behind it because of the quarterback.
We'll see what happens. Coaches are going to have to make some decisions. The GM, the owner is going to make some decisions. And of course, free agents are going to make some decisions in Buffalo. Let's see what happens. There are some big names headed to Cooperstown, like Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones. But what about those who got shut out despite being nominated? The Athletic senior baseball writer Zack Meisel wrote a great story about that, so that's why we've got him here to give us a little bit of the deets. Welcome, Zack.
Great to be here with you guys. Look, we could talk about the top of the ballot, the guys who got in, the guys who almost got in. I'm more interested in those people who got one vote. Why?
Exactly. And it's interesting because in your story, some of the guys were happy about that. Some of the guys even campaigned for that. And some guys were like, you should lose your job. And that makes me think, actually, in the WNBA, how Asia Wilson that one year got that 4th place vote for MVP, and we still don't know who did it.
Shade.
This is why, right,
Shade.
Exactly. So we want to talk a little bit about the losers. You actually love this topic, and to write a whole story about it, you clearly have to.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma here because your ballot doesn't have to be public. When you're a writer, you choose if you want to reveal it or not. So when Ichiro was inducted into the Hall of Fame, there was one person who said, that's not a Hall of Famer to me.
Wow.
We're probably never going to know who that one person was.
Just like that 4th place vote.
So there are people who have gotten one vote before, and they don't even know who that one person was. So a lot of times it's a courtesy. You're looking at a player's stats, and they were a solid player. They got on the Hall of Fame ballot because they played for a long time. And someone decided, you know what? Either that was a Hall of Famer to me or they were nice to me. And we had a great rapport as a writer and a player, that relationship. And they wanted to reward them for that. So a lot of different reasons. Some of those players know who it was. Bronson Arroyo, for example, solid pitcher for the Red Sox, for the Reds. I don't think Hall of Famer when I think about him, but
Hall of Fame cornrows, though.
Sure. And also a musician. I caught him when he was coming back from the music studio. So he knows Peter Gammons, former Athletic writer, longtime Hall of Famer himself in the writer's wing. And Peter Gammons and Bronson Arroyo had a great working relationship for many years. They bonded over music and being from the Northeast. And Peter Gammons tossed him a Hall of Fame vote. So Bronson knows. There are some other players, David Segui, for instance, solid player, not spectacular, admitted he used steroids. Like, not your typical candidate for Cooperstown. He wondered if it was his mom, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. I mean, these guys, some of them will never know.
How do you even come to find a story like this? They're looking at it the opposite way.
So I think I've gotten so tired of the steroid conversation as it pertains to the Hall of Fame. Should Barry Bonds be in? Roger Clemens? You know, Manny Ramirez just fell off the ballot after his 10 years. And so I wanted something different. Let's look at the other end of the ballot and find guys who got one vote. Is that a badge of honor you wear? There was a pitcher, Jim Deshaies, who pitched in Houston for a long time, now a Cubs analyst. And he actually campaigned for a vote.
Which is crazy.
He got his vote. His neighbors threw him a party at his house, balloons, confetti, a cake. So it means different things to different people. And, you know, just like for one day, could we maybe not talk about Barry Bonds?
You're speaking from firsthand experience. You're an elector.
What gets lost in this sort of process? Like with Peter Gammons giving one vote to Bronson and Arroyo. Just walk us through like what the actual balloting process looks like, and is there any real harm to doing something like this?
Yeah, not necessarily, because you can vote for up to 10 players, right? So some years the ballot is loaded and it's like, I wish I had 12, 13 spots. Some years you get beyond 3 or 4 and you're like, I don't know, this guy, like maybe. So it's difficult too, because the process, the standards have evolved. It used to be, did you have 3,000 hits? Did you have 500 home runs? Did you have 300 wins if you're a pitcher? Well, advanced statistics have better informed us. I think the eras have changed that. You know, the steroid era, everybody's hitting 40 home runs a season. It's also really hard to have good stats if you're a pitcher at that time. So now the game has changed. So you have to reevaluate, what are your criteria for a Hall of Famer? So I think with some people, the thought process in giving a vote to someone who everyone else would say, what were you thinking? Is, well, I was only going to vote for 6 guys anyway. What's the harm in using a 7th vote on Bronson Arroyo?
Yeah.
Or Barry Zito?
I've always marveled at the amount of power that the Baseball Writers of Association of America have when it comes to these votes and the sanctity of the vote. And you've seen guys like, that weren't the nicest to cover or the best to cover, that they wait forever to get into the Hall of Fame. How do we weigh that?
That's the most difficult part, because it's not just performance enhancing drugs, right? It's the character clause, and it's almost intentionally left vague.
Right.
And so we have to be the judge and jury and the morality police, and it's difficult. Your opinion can change over time, but the stats are the stats. And I think more than any other sport, if you see a left guard make the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we're not looking at like pancakes over average, right? Like that's one of those where it's just like, this guy made a ton of Pro Bowls and everybody said he was awesome. Like we know or we don't. And in baseball, we've just always had statistics to do a lot of the work for us.
I love the idea of celebrating guys that maybe are 1 or 2 steps down from Hall of Famers. We do a concept on the show that I do where we call it the Hall of Very Good. So we always try to do like a class every year for guys that maybe they made 2 or 3 Pro Bowls over the course of their career, but they're still worth celebrating. And so this idea, I very much relate to that.
I kind of want to play a game with that. I like this idea. Let's go around. Each of us has to choose something that we would have in our first inaugural inductee into the Sports Hall of Very Good. So Zach, you're going to start us off. Who should be the first to get into the Baseball Hall of Very Good, and why are they worthy?
Thankfully, there's only like 150 years of players here. So let me,
And a lot in that Indians lineup too, by the way. Yeah, right?
So for this, I want to steer clear of controversy. Let's avoid the steroid guys. Let's avoid anyone with off the field issues.
Okay.
Kenny Lofton is the perfect candidate for this. About 2,500 hits, not 3,000, so not that automatic ticket. He hit 299. If I told you he hit 300, would that change in your brain whether you thought he's a Hall of Famer? More than anything, he was a winner. Year after year, he was in the playoffs. He was a guy teams wanted. He was so fun to watch. 4 Gold Gloves, 6 All-Star appearances. Look, J. Cole named a song after him for his base stealing ability.
Right.
Maybe Ricky Henderson's name had too many syllables. Snoop Dogg didn't have enough. I don't know. But he just had a lot of the criteria that I think we appreciate now. But when he's playing in the 90s, we were looking at home runs. We were looking at, batting average, things like that. He was a different player. He was dynamic.
We're going to shift to the pro football arm of the Hall of Very Good. Robert, who you got?
I like what Zach said about Kenny Lofton having like a singular style. And that's why you just remember him in a very specific way. And so when I did this for the first time, and I'll be a shameless homer here, the guy I picked was Charles Tillman, who was a cornerback for the Bears for many, many years. He was better at anybody else in the league at like punching out fumbles. And so now when it happens, people still call it the peanut punch because his nickname was Peanut Tillman. And so similar to a guy like Kenny Lofton, where there's like this kind of ephemeral quality that makes them a little bit special and different than other players. I've always felt that way about Charles Tillman, even if he was never like at the top of his sport.
I love that. Okay. Jason, let's pretend there is one definitive college sports hall of very good. You're a connoisseur, you know a lot of sports, but get us into that college space.
So it's tough because you only get 3, 4, maybe 5 years, nowadays 6 years to be in college. So
nowadays,
if you
add more and more years.
If you're any good, you're going to be good for a couple of years, and usually those players get into the College Sports Hall of Fame. But since this is College Sports Hall of Very Good, I'm going to set the scene. 1995, all right, 15-year-old Jason racing home to watch the ACC tournament where Wake Forest's very own Randolph Childress had one of the greatest, I think, performances in college basketball history. And he also played on a team where Tim Duncan was a freshman and a sophomore, so he was surrounded by greatness. But he's one of those guys who, if you don't think of the broader scope of basketball and college basketball, you might miss him, but Randolph Childress would be a guy for me.
And I've got to do the basketball hall of very good, okay? I'm going to start with the NBA, and I got to go to 7 seconds or less basketball. Where do we know that from?
Phoenix Suns.
Phoenix Suns, okay? And we think about Steve Nash, we think about Amari Stoudemire, we don't always think about Sean Marion. And Sean Marion
It's a great one.
Is my hall of very good for the NBA, okay? This guy was an all-star. He won a championship. He was a person that did the dirty work, especially on the defensive end. Over 16 seasons, was able to average 15 and 8.
Yeah.
That's solid. Those are real numbers. And then he went and did it with Dirk
Champion
in Dallas, and he was a champion, right? So I think that there is something to be said about what Sean Marion added.
You understand the exercise.
Thank you.
That is very much the
Thank
exact
you.
type of guy I'm thinking about.
I
All very
appreciate
good.
that. My WNBA hall of very good, Rebecca Brunson. When you think about Rebecca Brunson, you think, yes, Minnesota Lynx, but who comes first? Maya Moore,
Right.
Simone Augustus,
Right.
Sylvia Fowles, Lindsay Whalen. What do they all have in common? They're Hall of Famers.
Right.
Okay? The 5th best player on that team was Rebecca Brunson. She's actually the winningest WNBA player. She's got 5 rings, 1 with Zach, 4 with Minnesota. She's still right now the leading offensive rebounder in the WNBA history, okay? She's awesome, but she was never the option, and that is why she is going into the WNBA Hall of Very Good. I think we've done a really great job.
I think those are
with
all
our
very
inaugural
worthy
class.
Pat ourselves on the back.
There you go.
I'm with it.
Well, we appreciate you coming to kick it with us in Chicago and break this whole thing down. The opposite side of the Hall of Fame. And now we have a Hall of Very Good.
First one.
First class. Appreciate you back. Guys, not sure if you noticed, but the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics is just 2 weeks away. One of the most anticipated events is the men's hockey tournament in Milan. And for that reason, we are bringing in Pierre LeBrun, one of the Athletic senior writers on the NHL, to talk to us about it. What's up, Pierre?
Tell you what, you guys have nice digs here. It's
We do.
wonderful to be here today.
I decorated it all by myself.
Pierre, hockey's always a big deal at the Olympics. It's a marquee event, but this year's version seems to have a little bit more juice than normal. Why is that?
Yeah, you got that right, Robert. First of all, it's the first time since 2014 in Sochi that the top NHL players are participating in the Olympics. And that was a very contentious thing in the NHL for several years. There's a whole generation of NHL stars that have lamented the fact that they haven't been able to play in the Olympics. It became a big issue in collective bargaining with owners. And the fact is they were actually supposed to go in the last Winter Olympics in China, but over COVID concerns, the NHL pulled out.
You mentioned the contention, but why weren't they there?
So Jason, generally speaking, I don't want to speak for every NHL owner, but the majority of owners have actually always been against the players going to the Olympics. There have been injuries in the past at some of the Olympic Games. The owners have always looked at it as, why are the players that we're paying going to the Olympics and playing for free for their countries? But it mattered so much to the players. And honestly, the NHL, Gary Bettman, the commissioner, realized that for the sport, maybe not the league, but for the sport, there's no greater stage. And it's rare to have best on best. So best on best is what we call these hockey events when the top NHL players are there. They kind of happen sporadically. 9 years went by before we had best on best at the Four Nations event last year. The NHL hosted that, and it led to some pretty interesting couple of games between Canada and the U.S., that's for sure.
Canadian on set, Americans on set, and
I
we know this
mean-
whole Canadian-American rivalry is a whole thing. So you actually spoke to someone that's going to be representing Team USA.
Yeah, and Brady Tkachuk and his brother Matthew Tkachuk. I like to say this. Team Canada won the Four Nations. The Tkachuks owned it.
Ooh,
I
okay.
mean, their personality, the fights against Canada, doing the talk show host tour after the event, they became really, it exploded in America, I think. People were sort of watching what was going on because of them. And we had a chance to catch up recently and talk about the Olympics. Dream come true for him and his brother. All right, Brady Tkachuk, Olympic Games. Have you thought about what it's going to be like to put on the Team USA sweater and go out in that ice in Milan?
Being able to say that you're an Olympian and all that kind of hard work as a kid paying off to representing the USA, and to do it on the biggest stage of them all, it's I can't believe it's right around the corner, and something that will be a dream come true.
You'll be playing alongside your brother Matthew, and most kids dream first of winning a Stanley Cup. But how many conversations have you had growing up with Matthew with the idea of playing together for Team USA in Olympic Games?
I wouldn't say it was much of a conversation. I mean, I think it just was a dream growing up. It's, you're trying to score the game winner for the Stanley Cup, but that narrative for the game-winning goal goes from Game 7 Stanley Cup to, that OT winner in the gold medal games. Those goals you score in the driveway and the mini sticks, it's for an event like, gold medal Olympics.
Salt Lake City, your dad won a silver medal there in 2002. Have you held a medal? Have you seen the medal? Do you know where it is?
I don't know where it is now, but I remember I had a show and tell in second grade, and I don't know why it came to my head, but I brought in my dad's silver medal from Salt Lake City to show and tell with my class and be like, this is something my dad won. Now it makes sense because I think right after show and tell my mom was there, and I immediately handed it to her, and then she left. I'm like, because she didn't trust me to have it all day. I'd be wearing it at recess and all the kids being excited, but me not really realizing the significance of it. Hopefully we can add a little more platinum to that too.
Well, you got a taste of it at Four Nations. I mean, you got Finland, Sweden, the US, and Canada, all the best NHL players. Overtime, championship game. What do you take away from Four Nations, knowing what you guys almost achieved and that you're right there?
Well, for us, it's just being one goal away, and in overtime, especially in a Game 7 environment, that anything can happen. And we talked about it after. Sometimes you need to face some hard times, some adversity to make your goals even sweeter and even greater. So as much as that sucked, I think there's a lot of learning lessons I know that we'll use to be better in the Olympics.
Now, you also played Team Canada a week before that championship game at Four Nations and a round-robin game at the Bell Center in Montreal. Walk me through the game plan, because I know after the game you told us that you and Matthew had kind of scripted that.
I was more nervous for Matthew's fight than my fight. We just kind of joked around about it. We're public enemy number one, and we felt that even the days leading up to it, that our whole team was going to be hated right when we walked that building. There wasn't going to be any support, and that all we had was each other. We wanted to show everybody how much of a team that we were and how we were going to do whatever it takes, and we were going to just show how much that we care about our team, our country, and that we're going to find a way to flip the table on them. So we had both our wives there, and I don't even think they knew either, so they're like, what just happened? But my mom was just sitting there just ready to enjoy it, and she was like as flustered as it gets after.
Can you explain the rivalry between Team USA and Team Canada right now to someone maybe just dropping in, and what is it like to be in the middle of that rivalry, especially after Four Nations?
Well, I think for the people that don't know, it's a rivalry that's always been there and at every level. It could be youth hockey, it can be for NHL players. It's Canada's been the top dog for so many years, and now that the U.S. is knocking on the door, we want to take out the top dog in the hockey world.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was chatting with John Cooper, the head coach of Team Canada, recently, and he said we have to be careful
that the tournament's not all about when we play Team USA. We don't even know if we're going to play them. There are a lot of good countries, and I'm wondering, just from playing Finland and Sweden, this is not just about US and Canada, right? I mean, you got to be ready for anything there in Milan.
There's so many great players playing in this tournament and playing in the Olympics that there's no guarantee that you'll make it to the gold medal game. It's not a shoe-in that, oh, US, Canada. There's so many great players, so many great countries that every day is so important.
Milan will be the first Olympics with NHL players in 12 years. There have been a lot of NHL stars that have been outspoken in the process to get back to the Olympics. I mean, how worried were you at some point that may never happen for your generation?
More feel bad for the guys that have had amazing careers within the 12 years and have had a chance to represent their country in the Olympics. And it's a no-brainer that everybody wants to be in the Olympics. Everybody wants to be an Olympian. And just happy that it was agreed upon that. It'd be great for not just the players, but it'd be great for the league and great for the growing of the game, where we want to be there, we should be there. And I think you always look back to when you were kids, you want to win two things. You want to win the Stanley Cup and the gold medal. And I think every NHL player should have that opportunity and chance to be able to win that every 4 years.
Miracle on Ice, obviously one of the greatest American sporting moments ever, maybe the greatest. 1980, a bunch of college kids beating a juggernaut Soviet team. It has impacted sports in many ways, but I'm wondering how many times you watched the movie Miracle, not to be too corny about it. What do you take from it?
I don't even think I could give you a number, the amount of times I've watched it. That was a staple growing up. It was great to have Mike Ruzioni on the podcast and just getting his take of the little stories behind the scenes.
You know what? I said this, and I believe this with all my heart, and I said it at the Four Nations. The best hockey team in the world is in this country. And things didn't fall the way you wanted them to at the Four Nations, but you're going to get another shot at it. Look forward to seeing you in Milan. I'm coming over for the last 5 days, and let's take that home.
As big as that Soviet game was, they still needed to win the next one against Finland, and I thought it was really cool that the hardest practice that they've ever had was the day after the Soviet game. Herb said that they'd take it to the graves if they didn't win that game, so they're able to still get the job done, and the rest is history.
Part of the backdrop, of course, in 1980 as well is that still the Cold War, right? And the political tension around that moment in that game where the sport transcends in many ways. I mean, listen, you lived some of that political backdrop in 2025 at Four Nations, booing of the U.S. anthem at the Bell Center in Montreal, a politically charged tournament, as it turns out, which I don't think players on Team USA or Team Canada really wanted, but it was there. So what's your sense of representing Team USA in Italy, again, with some of the political backdrop to it, and how do you want to represent Team USA?
Well, I think I'm one of a few guys on the team are in a difficult spot when it comes to that, being captains of Canadian teams and the NHL. So you got to almost be a little more cautious and careful in the environment and that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of that stuff you can't control.
A lot of people have Team USA co-favorites with Team Canada. Some people have Canada with a slight edge. Have you allowed yourself to envision standing on a podium and having an Olympic gold medal put around your neck?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to shy away. It's fun to picture that and visualize that and being up there with my brother. Of course, I've visualized that. I've dreamt of that moment, and I'm just going to do everything in our power as a team to have it come to fruition.
Of course, one of the main characters of this thing is the 1980 Olympics. It's been a while since Team USA has fared well in these type of situations, no?
Yeah, Jason, I mean, listen, 1980 is the last time the men have won Olympic gold in hockey. But in terms of best on best hockey, the very best NHL players, the U.S. won the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, which was a watershed moment for the sport, for USA Hockey, because they finally beat Canada when the best players are on the ice. And it really changed the universe in hockey, because there was a sense from that point on that the U.S. and Canada were on an even keel. And by the way, Keith Tkachuk, father of Brady Tkachuk, was on that U.S. team in 1996. However, that's 30 years ago, and the U.S. has not won a hockey tournament at best on best ever since. So there's a lot riding, I think, on the Milan Olympics. because the U.S. is right there with Canada. They can win gold if they play their best. And I think that if they do, what that could do for the sport in the U.S. would be gigantic, in my opinion.
I'm curious, as a Canadian, how do you think about this moment for like hockey in Canada? I'm sure there is a sense of like ownership and like, you're not going to take this away from us. So obviously we have the American-centric perspective,
Right.
but for somebody who lives the Canadian side of it every day, what is this moment like?
Well, the funny thing about hockey is that Canada in hockey has always played the American rule in all other sports. Canada's been the big dog, the bully, come and take us down,
Right.
and the arrogant Canadian hockey. I mean, that's a true thing, honestly. And Canada's not really looking forward to giving up that mantle. The pressure on Team Canada winning Milan is through the roof because it's been 12 years since Sochi. And Canada's been on that crazy run. They won the gold medal in Sochi. They went 6-0 with Sidney Crosby in the middle of it. They won in Vancouver in overtime over a great young U.S. team, the golden goal by Sidney Crosby. They won in Salt Lake City in 2002. So they just want to keep that winning going. They're not really thinking too much about how it would grow the sport elsewhere if the U.S. won.
Well, see, here's the thing, the growth thing, it automatically makes me think of the World Cup also coming to the United States, and there's all this pressure on Team USA to perform. Now, the expectation is not necessarily to win the whole thing for Team USA on the soccer side, but how Team USA in hockey winning could actually change the growth of the sport in the United States.
And the growth has been there. But in terms of having a moment, you know, maybe not quite like 1980, because that's a very unique circumstance, but a moment where you're bringing in other American sports fans saying, I want in on this. I think that's the opportunity that is at hand for Team USA here to really, you know, make this a bigger audience. You know, hockey's always been the little brother in this country. Let's be honest, trying to fight through on the TV ratings and for attention. And I think Milan is an unbelievable opportunity for that.
Well, we appreciate you coming by, Pierre, and have so much fun in Italy. Good luck.
Best hockey in the world, can't wait.
All right, you see the paddles in their hands, you see the trepidation in their eyes. You know what that means. It's time for the segment we love to call LFG, Learning Feels Good. As always, I'm gonna give you guys a number, and you need to figure out what the number refers to. The number today is 18. Is it A, how many layers of carbon fiber are used in hockey stick shafts to create optimum stick flex? Okay. B, the percentage of the Dodgers' total payroll Kyle Tucker will be earning, which is crazy.
Yeah.
C, total number of Hall of Fame votes Ryan the Hebrew Hammer Braun received this week. D, the number of months 2 Norwegian ski jump coaches have been suspended for altering the crotch of their athletes' ski suits. Crotch altering is what we're mentioning in this one.
I'm going with D. It's too crazy to be mentioned for any other reason, and 18 months is a very round suspension, right? It's a year and a half.
Right.
I'm picking up on context clues. I'm going D.
Damn. Yeah, I want to be different. I'm going to go with C.
The answer is D.
I knew it. Dang it.
The answer is D. The
Should've
head
just
coach
gone
of
with
Team
it.
Norway and the team's suit technician were caught on a video posted anonymously to YouTube inserting illegal stitching into the crotch area of suits for 2 of their star ski jumpers. According to an investigation by the Athletics' Matthew Futterman, the athletes in ski jumping are meticulously measured, and their suits can't be more than 4 centimeters larger than the surface area of their bodies. Okay, so put your egos away, fellas. That's because a bigger suit acts like a bigger sail on a boat. An extra centimeter or 2 of material in the crotch can give a jumper an extra 5 or 6 meters in length. And we all know we need that extra boost.
That's
It's been
crazy.
super embarrassing for Norway, a small country with a big, big love of winter sports and rule following. They never want to seem like they're compensating for something, you know what I mean? Those
wink,
extra
wink.
centimeters, yeah. Matt just went on the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast and told the whole story behind the Battle of the Bulge. So check it out if that's your thing.
On that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you. Shout out to Pierre LeBrun and Zack Meisel for hanging out with us, teaching us a little bit about the Hall of Fame and also the Hall of Very Good, as well as Tkachuk and Team USA heading into this year's Winter Olympics. Remember, you can find new episodes of The Athletic Show early every Saturday on Fire TV. And if you love learning, head on over to theathletic.com for more of the world's best sports journalism. It'll feel good. See you guys next time.